Good evening, everyone. My name is Gaëlle Morel, and I'm the exhibitions curator at the Ryerson Image Centre. On behalf of the RIC, I would like to thank you all for joining us tonight for Dana Claxton's lecture. I would like to start by acknowledging with respect the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee peoples and their traditional territory of the dish with one spoon. The Ryerson Image Centre stands within this territory today, and we respectfully accept our collective responsibility to the land during a time of environmental upheaval and crisis. It is once again a great honor for us at the Ryerson Image Centre to present the annual exhibition of the Scotiabank Photography Award in collaboration with the Scotiabank Contact Photography Festival. It was a great pleasure to work with the 2020 winner of the award, Vancouver-based artist Dana Claxton. Before I introduce Dana's show, I'd like to thank some key people: Darcy Killeen and the whole team at the Scotiabank Contact Photography Festival, Grant Law, Ryan Borella, and Sarah Lowe from Scotiabank, the designer of the wonderful Untitled book about Dana's work, Barry Gilmore, and the judges of the 2020 Scotiabank Photography Award, Edward Butinsky, Sophie Hackett, Candice Hopkins, and Brian Shoulders. I'd like to mention a few program notes before we begin. We are recording tonight's event, and we will be uploading it onto our YouTube channel in the near future for those who weren't able to attend tonight or for those who would like to watch again. Closed captioning through Zoom webinar has been made available for tonight's audience, along with an ASL interpreter, and this is David. Thank you, David. After the lecture tonight, we will commence a Q&A. If you have questions throughout the lecture, please use the Q&A function located at the bottom of your screen to submit them. And lastly, in the case of a technical difficulty, please remain patient while we correct the issue. I'd like to introduce you to Dana's exhibition, which is on view in our main gallery through December 4, along with 3 other exhibitions in our galleries and the public installations of the Scotiabank New Generation Photography Award across the Ryerson University campus. Drawing from Indigenous history, contemporary culture, and spirituality, this exhibition celebrates the career and practice of Dana Claxton. A Hunkpapa Lakota photographer and filmmaker, Claxton examines stereotypes and representations of Indigenous peoples in popular culture. This selection of artworks confronts issues of colonialist appropriation and commodification through a wide-ranging exploration of the artist family and community in the Great Plains, Saskatchewan. It is now my privilege to introduce Dana Claxton. Dana?
I think I'm here. Thank you for that. I'll just say that thank you everyone for being here. Currently, I'm on the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish people. I'm of course grateful for this award that has, as a result, we'll give an artist talk this evening, and also the, which I will refer to it a few times, the lovely publication that came with this. And I want to thank, of course, Ryerson Center for hosting the exhibition and for working together to curate the show, and all your staff and everybody here this evening, as well as the designer of the book, Bar, as you've mentioned, and also to Ed Bertinsky, who initiated this award, I understand, with the Scotiabank, and that they saw the sort of the worth and the value of honoring Canadian photography. And so to be placed within that realm of the other artists who have won this award, I'm very grateful. So Wopila. And now I'm going to go to my slides. Tell me if this is going to work. Now, you know what is that I can't see the sidebar of people, but I'll just continue for a while here. So I've decided to work from slides from the exhibition because what this allowed me to consider was what I've been doing really for the last maybe 25 years and even longer, 30 years. I started to go through my own archives, and I've had a camera since I was about 16, an old analog Canon AE1, and I've taken a lot of photos with it. And it took me some time to realize that I could do something with some of that early work. And so the exhibition is sort of in 3 stages in 3 rooms. And the first room is land. And, growing up, of course, on the Great Plains and the enormity and the teachings of the sky, which are all, also part of my own Lakota teachings of the sky being. And so I got to bring this work here forward. And so it's completely unmediated. It's not framed or doesn't have glass or plexi over it. And you'll see throughout the exhibition that I've used several film types. So this particular work was black and white analog film, and of course just stood at this beautiful place by Cabri Lake, which I've been going to for about 30 years. And what is so unique about this place is that, and special and profound, is that there's still wild grasses there. Some of the wild grasses and the buffalo grass, some grasses have become extinct on the plains, the prairies. And so there's concern for that when natural grasses go extinct, because as a result of that, so does, aside from natural flora and fauna, are also, the critters, some birds. There's birds that have gone extinct in this area. So this is looking at this incredible site, and a friend of mine introduced me to this site. Teddy Douglas is his name, and he's actually 96. He's in his 96th year now, and a settler farmer. And he was flying in his plane, and he also likes to take photos. And I was thinking this, pre those, drones and pre-digital photography. And he was flying, and it started to lightly snow. And then he looked down, and what he saw was all of these rock effigies and teepee rings and all these sites that he had never seen before. But the snow somehow made these outlines. And so it's this, fairly ancient village that really should be saved. And then it's sort of at a section where it's partially, it's all Indigenous land, but some of it now is Crown land, settler land, farmer land. And so it's a site that hopefully one day could be sanctioned as a UNESCO site. So here I'm on.
Dana, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. We
That's
don't
okay.
see your slides. We don't see your slides.
You don't?
No.
We just went and need the share screen button.
Oh, how do I get back to that? Oh, I've been talking all this time. You can't see it.
It's okay.
I need to go back. I got to get out of this. Do I do escape?
Escape.
Yes, do escape so you can see your Zoom again, and then share screen.
There, can you see it?
No, not yet. So hit share screen, and then.
Okay, let me go back.
Okay.
Heavens, thank you for telling me this. Sorry, everyone.
Yes, that's good.
What can you see?
We can see your screen, and you're going to hit play, and now we can see your image.
Oh, thank goodness. Here's the lovely Cabri Lake, and a very meaningful place for different Plains people who were in this region. The Cree, the Blackfoot, the Sioux. We don't really know who some of these rock, especially the rock works, who made some of the work. So I've returned here for many, many years, and I'm at a site which is what I think was just because of the rock formations, was a Vision Quest site. And so wanting to show this, so this first room was thinking about land. There's just some of the exhibition installation, and you can see sort of there's 3 parts. And then to the wall to the right are looking at grandfather stones. And, within the lodge, the stone, gives us the sweat and the heat when they're heated up. And there was incredible rock formations, turtle effigies, beings, birds, thunderbirds. And, within my own Lakota culture, we have stones who sing, who fly, who talk. And a stone isn't just a stone. So I returned to these beautiful stones. I'm just going to close something up here. Let's see. There we go. Oops. Just gonna close that up. So the triptych of the three stones, and one is actually broken in the middle there, so not quite the whole middle. And just sometimes when the stones get too hot, they burst. Okay, I'm trying to go to the next slide. Let me see.
Let's click on the image itself and then click once more.
Okay, thank you. Just another look at the front room of this, the front exhibition space. And hang on one second. And to the right, of course, it's just the didactic of the exhibition, but another work called Sundancer's Gaze. And just technically, shot that just with an iPhone. So I've used iPhones, disposable cameras, 35mm cameras, as well as large format cameras within this exhibition. And there's a close-up of the stones. With the reflection of the other works on the other side is, as we'll see as we go through the whole show, because I've worked with a lot of reflections in, I guess, my quote, street photography of the Paris series, as well as I've now recently done a Manhattan series, and I'm working on a Vancouver series, all thinking about just me walking and studying my cosmopolitan environment. And I've worked a lot with reflections. And so these reflections, again, are showing up even within the exhibition space. And there's the Sundancer's Gaze. You get your vision when you look into the sun. So on the wall to the right are more images from Cabri Lake, and again, shooting with 35mm color this time, and wanting to show the artifact of the actual film processing, thinking of production, that this incredible image of the natural world is framed. It's like a framing device with the artifact, as well as with the framing of the picture itself. So thinking about framing, but also what resides outside of the frame. And so all of these are from different locations overlooking the Cabri Lake. And it's really the natural colors of the grass and the sage and the stones and the sky that are like no other. And then there's another triptych. And I sometimes think, because I'm a filmmaker, I'm always wanting to take several images. And especially with digital photography, one of the last shoots I did, I took 1,500 images of the ironworkers and then made a video flip book. So I've moved and transformed and been inspired by technology, and even as a filmmaker and video artist. And I think I've gone through every type of video production, and also with film, whether Super 8, 16mm, or 35mm, and all kinds of video as well. So what this award and this has allowed me is to really look at my practice and think about, what is it? What have I been doing? How have I been doing it technically, and also intellectually and spiritually and creatively and theoretically? And, what am I doing here? So I kind of know and I kind of don't know, but, I look at sort of these attachments that I have, and one is to, of course, the natural world. But folding within that natural world is, sort of the supernatural and spiritual life. And I just love this shot. And I've just actually looked at these in the last few days. So thank you, Ryerson, for assisting with getting the PowerPoint together. But it's the reflection of the moccasins here. Can you see my cursor? Yeah. And so the cursor, the moccasins, how they're reflected here in this work is, I'm adoring it really. So we'll continue on. So this next room, oh, there's a larger photo, and then you get a sense of the other spaces that are coming up, and I suppose the scale of the work. And the idea was, how can one in this first room be surrounded and hopefully comforted and wrapped in the beauty that is the natural world of Saskatchewan in the plains. So just heading down and again looking at the moccasin reflections here. Another image. Oh, that's lovely how that's overlapped in there as well. So there's a double readings going on. So thinking, even though it's serendipitous, how do we then read in terms of not only exhibition design, but the type of unpredictability that can happen when you're installing a show. Oh, that's quite lovely to see this. So this is a vinyl mural of Wood Mountain moccasins by Grace Pegan, the late Grace Pegan. And with beadwork, every community and do beadwork, different communities and different communities have their own style of beadwork. And so, and these are very specific to Wood Mountain, and then further to Standing Rock as well, because that was a very big area. As we know, the border is not Indigenous. And so our families, were in those regions. And when you chart the Canadian colonial border, it goes right through families in some cases, and it goes right through communities. And, it's been quite disruptive in many ways. I suppose that's the, kind of the problem with borders, is they're disruptive, really. And so, so some of these designs also are from Standing Rock and Little Eagle and Wakpala. And so when I worn my moccasins in that region, some of the old timers recognize some of the designs. So it's lovely to experience that. And what some of the designs represent. So you can see down here, they start getting kind of, they're abstract and they're geometric, and then they float in and out of abstraction, as well as seeing, very clear images, and working actually with my iPad. So anything that can take a picture, I'm interested in working with. And so this was my iPad in this case. And, the mobility of the iPad, and just to, to sway with the iPad, and then to have, maybe I think that I borrowed some moccasins from people as well as my own families and community members. And I think I ended up having about 12 pairs of Grace Pegan's moccasins. And so it was just beautiful to see them all together as this mass. And, so like, of course, in terms of cultural aesthetics, if we think of what aesthetic imperialism is, and to disavow culture making, material culture making, which happened in Canada, different things being criminalized. And, in certain ways of making things also waned for a while. And so this is really, taking all of that into consideration, but also thinking about what is aesthetic imperialism, and then what gets valued, and then what gets relegated that, oh, those designs are, whatever, how one might articulate them through, becoming some type of ethno commodity or something. So I'm thinking about those things here, but also, well, I'll show you another image in a minute. To the left are part of this Manhattan series. And again, these particular images I shot with a disposable 35mm camera, and they are beautiful to work with, because I realized that, and through another project that I had shot, the documents of the American Indian movement, is, the grain is very particular, as we know, compared to the pixel. And the grain is, in some ways, much more earthened. So I went through this, I've been, and still going through it, that, we have to save the grain. We have to save analog. We need to save the grain because of its earthenedness, hopefully with cleaner chemicals and those kind of things. And, we know the problematics of the camera as a, colonial violent, apparatus that froze people and created these sort of fugitive poses, as Visner talks about. But I realized also through this process, and earlier in the process of the award and preparing for the show, is my commitment to the grain and to the digital, but this commitment that we need to make sure we don't depart from it because of its texture, which is so extraordinary. And I'm not convinced that the digital can reproduce that. So the works to the left are from my Manhattan series, and so they're called, I think they're called Manhattan Fringe 1 and 2. Oops. For some reason I can't click now. What have I done? Oh, there we go. So here's a closer shot of Wood Mountain Moccasins by homage to Grace Pegan. And yeah, so you just see the movement of it all, and as it moves, and as you look to it. And it's lovely to work with all these images of hers. I like these that get quite piled up in here. I'm going to click onto the next one. Two more images to the right of the Manhattan. This one's called Black Fringe 1 and Black Fringe 2. And I titled these Thinking About Black Lives Matter. It was the most beautiful black leather fringe dress. And so here are another pair of Wood Mountain moccasins, again, showing the artifact. And I wrestled with the idea of having Kodak be visible. But, Kodak's film is something very particular as well. And, however, the conversation around Kodak film, and as we know, when they were making film that made people's skin tones one color, Grant Arnold of the Vancouver Art Gallery wrote about that. And so it's not without being problematic, but also wanting to show the artifact. And I mean, there's something beautiful about the artifact in these, the shapes of those, the numbers, as well as the Kodak, the codes, and it becomes its Kodaks. And so these are Wood Mountain moccasins there, actually, that they were my great grandmother's moccasins. And I love them because her feet were so petite. But also thinking about value, and that the thought of footwear and how one values it, And, these, although they were incredibly, and they still are, I've got, wear moccasins all the time. They're incredibly durable because of the hide. In the day it was buffalo hide. Now sometimes it's deer, moose, elk. People use all kinds of hides to make Indigenous footwear. And when you get to know Indigenous footwear in the 4 directions on Turtle Island, it's, the variety of footwear is astonishing and inspiring and actually even overwhelming. But then also the embellishments and what goes into making footwear. Oops, I'm gonna get out of that. But the value, not only in terms that they're protecting your feet, but how, say, non-Indigenous people look at this footwear and value. And but that further, that this protective footwear that you would wear on your feet, that it wasn't, of course, walking on hard concrete. So when you wear moccasins, should you ever wear moccasins and walk on walk on Macaw, Mother Earth, the feeling, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And so I encourage you all to get a pair of moccasins because there's nothing like it. It's not like walking on concrete or asphalt with boots and rubber boots or running shoes. There's nothing like a pair of moccasins and walking in the natural world. So I'm thinking of those terms, those things here as well. And, just that. There's another image of maybe we'll go back. So you can see here a bit in terms of the reflection. So I don't know, I can't remember what street this was, but a lovely store somewhere in mid-Manhattan or somewhere, but the lovely street, the reflections of the other buildings, and then of course the trees and that kind of thing. And then here we're seeing the reflection of the other side of the gallery. So I'm really liking these reflections all over the gallery. And it's not necessarily an echoing that's going on, but there's this, double and triple and, quadruple kind of further layers, I believe, of a discourse that the actual site of the gallery space has now created onto these works. And I think that is, it just is, I don't even know how to completely articulate it because I've just noticed it in the last few days. And like, there's this, there's a not only a re-articulation, but there's there's something going on that the gallery space itself and the way the work's been hung has, furthered the discourse of these images. So they're lovely wood mountain moccasins again. Might be going a bit slow here, and then just the reflection of these other works. More, seeing the whole room together. And then now starting to go into the other room. So it started with land, and then this was cultural belongings, cultural aesthetics, and then the next room, thinking about the figure, the Indigenous body. And so these, of course, are fireboxes and cultural belonging to the left and lasso to the right. And this is the first time that they've been together. And so in many ways, they're, the companion pieces to each other with cultural belonging. I shot that and then had it for a long time just in my studio, completely conflicted about bringing it forward because, it wanted to be a firebox, but, it just became very complicated about doing that. And, with the history of light boxes, as well as the great expense, thinking, is this, excessive? Is it masculine? Is it all of these things? But she wanted to be a firebox. And so when I realized that I could make this work but as a firebox, it released me from a whole bunch of concern that, I had. And, there's, in working with fireboxes, of course, thinking about the spirit of, fire, who's the spirit of hydro? Who's the, where is this from? And, when you turn something on like that, at night, these get turned off. They become something completely different, but it's that, it's that the spirit of hydro, it's that spark that makes these work live. And so, yeah, I feel, very privileged, of course, to be able to make these works and then to have them together like this. So, just maybe unpacking this image a little bit, she has all these made to be readies around her. So she's, she has a bustle holder, some parfleche, some drums, some beadwork, some purses. She's got these wicked pair of lovely sort of platform doeskin shoes. She's wearing this incredible elk robe, and she has a dance stick, and then the headdresses. This was the first headdress that I did, and just bringing all of these cultural aesthetics into the realm of contemporary art, but not necessarily stripping them out of their how they would always be worn, but adding, kind of folding that in, but also folding into it the idea of the made to be ready, as opposed, of course, to the ready-made. So these are made to be ready to, dance, made to be ready to clothe the body, made to be ready to go to war, made to be ready to protect your children. And so again, thinking about aesthetic imperialism and wanting to see the, beauty of Indigenous aesthetics. And, I know that's, I realize it's, I'm quite a simple person. And, that's what I want to see. And I've been called on it a few times as though, well, you're always thinking about beauty. But beauty is not a bad thing. Or I was thinking perhaps we should call it gorgeous, but then that's all these terms are so loaded. But just thinking about, what is Indigenous beauty? And because of these things have, were relegated to those zones of indistinction through the state, through law. And, when I think of our beautiful traditional clothing, can you imagine if Indigenous women and of course with the ribbon skirt movement and, if we were all wearing our traditional clothes, it would be amazing. But that became part of a line item in the Indian Act to say, you actually couldn't wear your traditional clothing in public. So, jurisprudence in this country and the state and the Indian Act did a lot of harm to aesthetics. So I think that's why I'm always sort of revisiting that as well. And so she's, she's has this incredible history with her. She's in the present. She's going into the future. And so same with Lasso, similar with him. He's got his pony, he's got his war pony, his lowrider, and then he's partially hip hop, he's partially Western, and he's, future as well. So it's this combination of all of those things. And then of course he has his magic. Okay, I might have got sidetracked there. Yeah, it's interesting seeing these together. And then the color turquoise. And, I was thinking about different influences of art making. It have been many, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. I've been enchanted by the Vancouver School completely, and also by Norval Morrisseau, and his explosions of color. If you saw his show at the National Gallery, you would walk through there, and he worked in his scale specifically for that show because he worked in all different types of scale. But some of those works you would go in and you would immediately, for myself anyhow, I would be completely just uplifted with the types of color that he worked with. So he often talked about color as a form of healing, and that turquoise is one of those colors. So this is not like a hipster color. It is a older color that has been used for a long time. So not that hipster color is bad or anything, but it's not a Vancouver color. Somebody told me that the other day, that turquoise is a Vancouver color. I said, no, it isn't. It's, if we think of turquoise that the Navajo have been using, and turquoise for many beadworks, it's been around for a long time, turquoise. So that's what I'm thinking of with this particular color. I'm actually thinking about Norval Morrisseau. And then of course fringe, and the how fringe is alive, on all many dancers. It's about how you move the fringe. It's like it's alive. And so there's movement to the fringe and his how he's clothed here. And then what else can I say about this work? I think that's it for now. Oh, there's just more of a close-up shot of those. A bit of reflection. I wonder what those ones are. I haven't seen the show live, so for those of you who are seeing the show live, enjoy the reflections. Okay, so these were some of the newest works I made as a result of being awarded the Scotiabank Award. And so I did make a few works specifically for that. But I did also want to thank Lila Timmons, because she was so steadfast in awarding me for this. So if you're there, Lila, thank you so much. And one day we'll have a lovely celebration together. So these are the newest works. And as you can see, it's the classic, the very classical Fist of Defiance, but of course, completely blinged out with Indian false fingernail bling. And the one is of the 4 direction colors, and the other one's just all red. So the one with the red is titled Defiance Resthetics for Skeena. And it was Skeena Reese who, when I showed these to her, she said, whoa, those are resthetics. So I love that term that she there's also like res glamour, and it's very different than other glamour, but just as valuable if we're going to value glamour, right? And beauty. So, and then the other one's just called Defiance 2 and Defiance 1. So, just thinking of, this continuation of, just being in a part of a history in a country that has, the brutality of colonialism, and, sort of the ongoing kind of, I didn't even like to use the word fight. It's like the ongoing, I don't even know what to call it. Everyone call it pursuit. But how do you achieve social justice in a country such as Canada's, right? We've got this, brutal history. And then we've got this amazing history of autonomy for people who want to come from all over the world. But at the same time, Indigenous people have been, relegated to those, zones of indistinction and structurally dehumanized to the point where we have, the murdered and missing women and the residential school and all of these things that haunt this land and continue to harm people, and not only Indigenous people, but other people, if you can be harmed by somebody's experience like that. So, this is part of my context. And so these works represent a number of investigations, really. But also I was thinking about, because I've been in one of the classes I'm teaching, thinking about Gerald Visner the amazing, Anishinaabe scholar in his one essay, or one of the essays, Fugitive Poses. And so thinking about, the Indigenous figure and no longer being sort of wounded, no longer being these wounded fugitives of the camera. And that really spoke to me. It really speaks to me because I'm using the camera. I'm wanting to show Indigenous beauty. I'm wanting to show that, and it's so like, and you hear it often, Indigenous people, not only artists, saying, we're still here, we're still alive. Like, who has to say that? Who has to say that? And the fact that we continue to have to say that, if we think of both Canada and the United States, I mean, the United States is a whole, sort of horror story of its own when it comes to Indigenous representation. And so this is part of my context. And, I'm grateful for it because it's allowed me to see in different ways that I'm not sure I've been able to see. So there's those two works. And so there, you might have seen some of my Indian Candy series, metallic prints with a really high gloss laminate. And so these are the same. So I made them, really wanted them to be quite slick and juicy, basically. Okay, so this one to the right is a study for a protest and black and white photography, and had initially took this to be placed within a larger work about the Muckamuck strike. And so this is life size. You can see we put it on the ground level, the floor. And so, and same with not the panel, but the Moccasins is the mural to also put that, they were right on the ground. And we were specifically doing that, thinking about this floor level and how exhibitions are hung. And then there it is as well. I was thinking earlier, it sort of looks like this doorway, this gateway or something. And then study for a protest. So they go well with the Defiance, and then well with Indian Paint Up. With these two works are called Paint Up 1 and 2, large format photography. And so this room, we were thinking about the Indigenous body, the Indigenous figure, and bringing that into the conversation of land, cultural aesthetics, cultural belongings, and then, of course, the people. I'll have to see if there's one more image. Oh, there might be a few more. And so, yeah, so it's again the reflections in here. I haven't had time to think about these ones as much as the ones with the moccasins on the landscape. So I haven't had time to reflect too much on these ones. And so also thanks to all the lenders who loaned work for this exhibition. Oh yeah, you can quite see the Defiance here. Study for a protest. Huh. Why did you can see them also partially in his eyes? Let's paint up one. A little bit in there. So, just thinking about the, how we view art, and not only the study of art, the analysis of art, the production of art, writing of art, is then, the exhibition space and how we view art and the different, of course, interpretations that the viewer will have of this art. Art is so complex and it's demanding, it's generous. But once you're in the exhibition space, it becomes, it becomes a whole other thing, really. So that's lovely how she's reflected here. Oh, it looks like this could be here a viewer. Oh, no, I think that's from the study for a protest.
Correct, Dana. It's the reflection. Yes.
Oh, it is. Thank you. And then the reflection here. So, oh, and the reflection there. So I've never seen a show with so many reflections. And so I'm very intrigued by that. Cultural belonging. Let's see. Just on a side note, on his tall 10-gallon hat, I had to get an extra insurance rider because it was an authentic one that was, there's not a lot of them around still. Oh, so that's it. So now how I can go stop sharing?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Dana. And I'm back for some questions. We do have a couple of questions about your process and your printing. So you mentioned using 35 film, but then you're printing digitally, correct?
Sometimes, yeah, both. Sometimes digitally, sometimes darkroom prints as well.
Oh, so you combine both.
So, I mean, if you have a far enough throw distance, you can make, black and white prints that are, I've made one that were, you can do 4 by 5, 6 feet. It all depends on how large your, enlarger is, but also your throw distance onto the paper.
I have a question for you. You seem to be very interested in fashion. Could you elaborate a little bit on this? You do have a background connected to fashion.
I don't know so much if I have a background in fashion completely, but just, I mean, it just like stylish stuff. And so I had worked at the Georgia Strait for a while and we would go out on photo shoots with the, for the style column, as we were calling it. And because didn't want to use the F word, the fashion word, that it was more style, not fashion. And then also I had lived in New York for a while and worked for Details magazine. I didn't know what Details magazine was, but I got a job there and then got completely thrust into the interesting fashion world basically as a runner to do kind of a bit of everything, and the receptionist, and then the controller's assistant. And so, but just, I don't know if that constitutes as an official background in fashion, but other than to just be, I had a couple of friends who were actually clothing designers, and they made me clothes, actually, when I think about it. And so it was privy to the construction of garments, through taking it from fabric, roll of fabric, to making your patterns, and I sew myself. I mostly sew Sundance dresses and ribbon skirts, and actually gave a workshop on we had a sew-in at the Belkin here at UBC. But so yeah, I like fashion, but I don't know how official it really is.
Sounds good. I have another question about how do you choose your models, and how do you engage, and how are they impacted by being in the works?
Thank you for that question. Samaya Jardé, who I've worked with for almost 30 years. So I've worked with her, a lot. And she, I'll quote her, but she often says that, it's not me in those pictures, it's somebody else. And that, it's a generous exchange that we have with each other. And I would say a trust. And same with when I did the headdress pieces. Didn't know fully what was going to happen. And they became, really maniful moments to, be, sort of covered in transformation and wearing, it was very generous of people to work with me that way. But it's not even work. It's sort of, sometimes it goes beyond that, right? It's beyond, because, art, I would say art is also within the realm of spirit. And so when you have worked closely with people for long periods of time and then long decades, something really significant develops.
I also have a question from our director, Paul Roth, who is intrigued by the range of subject matter and different approaches and genres in your career. Is that flexibility and evolution something you think about, something you planned?
No, I'm a planner in some ways, like when it comes to administrative duties, but when it comes to, I'm very spontaneous and intuitive, but certainly when I see the image, then I of course have to gather all of the components that will make up that image. But it's just something that you see, and then you have to, for me, something that I see and then I have to bring it out. But just thinking, I've been inspired by, of course, contemporary art from all people. I'm very invested in contemporary art and historical art and modern art. And so art in general has been a great site of inspiration, as well as sociocultural politics and spiritual life.
Well, there's something asking, and maybe that will be our last question, but somebody asking about the relationship between art and spirit in your work. So just to elaborate on that.
Well, I think that, I'm going to show you just a couple of things from the beautiful book. It's a special book. And so, it allowed me to go through my archives. And so there was a few images that I wanted to show. And some people have seen this work that was a large firebox. And it's Indigenous iron workers here on the coast. And they're sort of in mid-stride, walking to, I don't know if it's always about the future, because, I'm not, or what the avant-garde is. I always think, what is the avant-garde? Where is it going? But I just wanted to show you that from the book. But there's one more image. When I was looking through my archives, and especially early black and white works, not early, but this was a work that I'm calling Cigar Store Indian. Sorry, there's a lot of reflections. But a friend and colleague of mine, James, and it was lovely to see this in the book. Well, we plan to put it in the book. So when you're making work, of course, on set, or both of those images, one was taken on set making a short film, and the other was specifically wanting to work with a group of Indigenous ironworkers in Vancouver. And, you can sort of chart out some things, but then it's also, as I call it, the spirit of art making happens when you're there with all of these components, and then within the realm of art where that, begins to take you. So I allow for a lot of spontaneity and intuition when I'm making work, that it's not all structured. But of course, sometimes then when I'm making a film, it's, it's all scripted and those kind of things. But then also there's those moments that happen that you have to just allow the work to be itself.
And this time will be our last question. And just to prelude to that, when we worked together, the thing that really surprised me about your working with you and your process was how, and you mentioned it in your talk, how you pay attention to the space, how the gallery cube or space is really significant for you in the creation of the exhibition. And we do have a question here about what do you think people will be surprised to learn about you as an artist? And if you think there's any misunderstanding about your work.
Wait, say that again. I was getting sidetracked.
So let me find the question again. Sorry, trying to find it. Oh, it disappeared. I don't have the question anymore.
What
What would people be the most surprised about your work? And do you think there's any misunderstanding about the way your work is received?
Um, well, about space, I mean, it also, I worked at an artist-run center. That was where, at the Pitt Gallery here in the city, and then it had, relations with the Grunt Gallery and Western Front and the Orr and different galleries across Canada. And so the artist-run center field, the sphere, the realm of, those spaces, those sometimes just a small, humble space, but what you were, when I think about all the exhibitions at the Grunt Gallery over the years, are amazing how transformative exhibition spaces are. And through bringing in, quote, the object or the art, right? Bringing in the art and how it transforms into something completely different. So I have to say, is I feel safe in the gallery space. And I know that's a complete contradiction. But there's a safety within those four walls and an audience that's engaged, as well as new audiences coming to see the work. So I believe in the gallery space, and I believe in the museum, even though it's a fraught site and all of those things. I believe in it and respect it as well. But I think maybe what people might not know about my work, that's interesting. Yeah, I have to think about that. I don't know. I'm not sure. Oops.
Anyway, thank you so much, Dana. I think we're gonna wrap up. So I'm also gonna show the beautiful, I think I'm blurred, so you won't see it, but the beautiful turquoise book. Yes, Dana, designed by Bar Gilmore. I think he's in attendance. Hi, Bar. Thank you
Hi,
so
Bar.
much. It's you can find it at the reception desk at the Ryerson Image Centre. All information about visiting the galleries are, thank you, Dana, are on our website, because we have new opening hours and some guidelines for you to be able to visit us. So please visit the website. Dana, you
I
wanted
was
to
thinking
add
about what
something?
people might not know is because I remember one time I had a curator come from the MOA in New York and was looking at my work, and she said to me, "You're not at all like I was expecting you to be." And I said, "Well, why?" And because she had saw a work called I Want to Know Why, where I'm screaming, I don't know why. And I wanted to know why about, this colonial violence. And so she thought I was going to be a really angry person. And so people might not know that, I have certainly rage, against these things, but, don't live in anger.
Thank you so much, Dana. That's a beautiful note to end on. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Dana, again. Thanks to the whole team at the RIC who helped with this event, Brian and David. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody. Dana.
Thank you so much.
Come visit as soon as you can.
Okay, well, take care, everyone. Ciao.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.